and welcome to the Care It Out Sleep Show. Whether this is your first time you're delving into one of my podcast episodes, or you are a seasoned sleep stalker and have listened to every single episode I've ever put out there, thank you so much for tuning in. And I really hope that, as always, you find this podcast episode useful, reassuring and informative. That's always my intention behind every single podcast I put out there. In fact, every bit of content I put out there. That, and as well as giving you some very simple sleep suggestions that you can, or takeaways as some people like to call them, to go out and try and put in place at home. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Kerry Secker. I'm an infant sleep consultant, founder of my unique sleep approach, Care It Out, and I'm on a serious mission to get you and your small a settled night's sleep without tears, training or techniques. I know that sounds bonkers when I say that. I probably see it happen on the daily, but definitely weekly, if not on the daily, and it still blows my mind when that happens. And I'm really passionate about trying to get as much of my sleep resources out there and accessible to as many parents as I can, hence the podcast. So today's episode, it's episode 16, Nailing Naps on the Move. I can't believe we're on episode 16 already. We're building up quite a back catalogue of episodes now. So if this is the first time that you have found this podcast and you're just delving in for the first time, fear not. If you like this, there's plenty more episodes out there. And I definitely think we need to do some kind of celebratory celebration when we get to episode 20. But for now, this is episode 16, Nailing Naps on the Move. And in this show, I'm going to be sharing 4 sleep suggestions to help your small nap on the go. So if you've been following me for a while, you might have already heard me say this, that naps don't have to be in the cot to count. Yep, that's right, 100%. I don't push, naps have to be in a cot to count. And I honestly believe that naps out and about, whether that's on you, in a pram, in a car, in a stroller, in a sling, if the naps on the move are working for you and they're working for your small and they're having a nap, all is well, and we don't 100% we don't have to change that. The reason why I don't push that naps have to be the reason why I don't push that naps have to be in a cot to count is mainly because, one, it's so tough being at home all day with a little one. Time really slows down. So I think it's really important to get out and about, fresh air, moving your body, getting out, change of scenery. I think that's really important for everybody's mental, physical well-being. So that's really important. Some of you may have already heard the story, but I personally really struggled when I first set up my practice, working from home all the time. I couldn't understand why I was getting up every morning feeling sad. Some mornings I would cry, and I loved my job. I didn't understand what was going on, and I realised it was because, as much as I was talking, goodness me, I talk all day on the phone, I needed connection with other people. I need to eyeball other people during the day. So getting out, I think, is really important for everybody. And the other one is that it's logical to think, well, if they need to be somewhere else during the day for their naps, they're not going to nap in their cot or in their bed or in their sleep space at night time. So whilst naps and night time they're 100% linked, how they go down for naps and how they go down and what happens at night time, where they go down, how they sleep at night time. I'm not saying it's impossible, because if I've learned anything from working with families, smalls, infants, children, families for so long, is that nothing is impossible, but it's so very unlikely to be the reason behind a sleep struggle. So 100%, if naps are working on the move for you, we don't need to change them. If it's working for you and your small, all is well. And lots of smalls are happy to nap on the go, but it doesn't work for everybody. I have to be honest, you can always count on me for a dose of honesty. And you could pull out all the sleep training, which, I'm going to be honest, it's not my bed bag, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, or all the sleep tips and tricks, and they still wouldn't nap out and about. I've definitely experienced this in my nanny practice. I looked after lots of different babies, worked with many different families whilst I was out and about nannying many moons ago. Seems a long time ago now, and I used to work with some little ones where I would do everything and they still wouldn't sleep out and about, and it is really frustrating, annoying. It's all of the feelings for so many different reasons. but for some, they just will not do it. And if I've learned anything from working with lots of families, lots of takeaways working with families, is that everyone's so different, and you cannot push your small to do something that they just aren't able to do. That often can be more frustrating and tiring than trying to push them to do something that in that moment they're just not capable of doing it. And my whole sleep approach, Care It Out, is all about meeting your small where they are now, meeting them where they are now, when and if we can. And actually sometimes doing the sleep surrender, I call that when we just go with them and going with it, sometimes doing that is actually less stressful and tiring, okay, not always, than trying to fix it constantly. So there are things we can try to get them sleeping on the go, but with the best will in the world, you could pull out all of the suggestions I'm going to go through, all of the sleep training in their cots, and they still wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with your small. They're not broken. It's just that is where your small is at the moment. And I think there's something so powerful about surrendering to them and going with them. But before we do that, there are some little simple sleep suggestions that could help. But before I get on to the main bit, my sleep suggestions, I just want to talk you through the two main reasons why your small can struggle to nap on the go. There's two main reasons. One is their peak preference. So just like us, your small might have a preference to their sleep environment and place of sleep. It's just like us. We have a favourite pillow, a favourite duvet, a favourite position, and your small is exactly the same. Some need it a certain light in their room, a familiar place with nothing else going on around them. We're all different. Your small is exactly the same. Second point is that for some smalls, sleep is going to be secondary. And what I mean by this is, as your small grows and develops and discovers there's a whole exciting world to explore out there, they might find it hard to switch off and settle to sleep. There's so much to look at whilst they're out and about. And what we often forget is that it's all new to them. Like the first time they're going out in a new place, it might be really familiar to them, but for them, they really take it in, and they might be seeing things over and over again for the first time. And because it's so new, they just want to keep looking at it. And then because there's so much stimulation, that sleep can become secondary. So nosing and playing can often be the priority rather than sleeping, even if they're really super tired. Some will not switch off if there's stuff going on around them. So if your small struggles to nap on the go, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, it's really important reassuring you. I promise it can often feel like it, but you aren't alone, and you're not doing anything wrong, and your small isn't broken, even though I know it feels like it. And before surrendering to no naps on the go, here's 5 of my sleep suggestions that could help save your sleep on the move. I've just realised I said 4 in the beginning, if you're eagle-eared and listen to that, but I'm fairly sure there's 5. So number 1 is the Super Snooze Shade. I don't often recommend lots of parenting products, mainly because there's very few we need, but the Snooze Shade can absolutely save your sleep. If you're you can use this in the car, to black out the windows if they're snoozing in the car, and you can also use it to on their buggy as well. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I've used it so much, and I recommend it all the time. So sleep suggestion number 1 is invest in the Super Snooze Shade. Sleep suggestion number 2 is mobile white noise. So I'm a massive fan of white noise, especially for naps on the go. There's 2 reasons why I like white noise on the go. One is it can help to drown out all the noise that's going on around them, which can help them to settle to sleep, switch off. Well, actually, let's start at the beginning. Switch off, settle to sleep, and then stay asleep. But it also gives them something to tune into as well, which can also help shut off that stimulation. And you can use mobile white noise in the car, in the pram, in the sling. I wouldn't recommend having a phone near them. Again, there's nothing wrong with this. This is just personal preference, but I would get a little Wobar, a little mobile white noise machine. I personally love the little Whisper one. I'll put all the links to these things in the show notes afterwards. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of using a mobile white noise machine on the move. Sleep suggestion number 3 is switch off the stimulation. Again, this isn't always possible when you're out and about, but where you can, if you can take them away from the action and somewhere calm and quiet, pull the snooze shade down, put the mobile white noise on. Sometimes that's just enough to do the trick and help them switch off to sleep. Fourth sleep suggestion is to switch to a sling. So some little ones find it very tricky to switch off in the pram. For lots of different reasons, lots going on. They're facing out, so they're constantly looking at things. And again, I've found this from personal experience from my nanny days again, where if I found that they were finding it tricky to fall asleep in the pram, I found that if I put them in the sling, I had more chance of actually getting them off to sleep. And I think this is for lots of different reasons, but I think the main ones are they're facing you, and I think that can help switch off that stimulation, switch off that all that newness going on around them. What am I trying to say? That they want to nose. It can really help them to kind of switch off a little bit more, switch off that stimulation. Also, they can smell you. They're really close to you. That can be very comforting, and that can help them switch off to sleep. And the other one is that it's more of emotion being on you as well. That can help as well get them off to sleep. And then the last one, sleep suggestion number 5, is recline to rest. So my suggestion would always be, if you can, to recline the buggy or car seat to get them to sleep. Some will find it very difficult to nod off whilst upright, but if you recline the buggy or the car seat, you stand a slightly more increased chance of getting them off to nap. And some might resist the reclining of it. I've definitely worked with some smalls that really resist. They knew what I was trying to do the minute I tried to put they're so crafty, these smalls. They knew exactly what I was trying to do, and they would kick off. But so if that happens, sometimes I found just pulling it, reclining it a little bit step by step, that can help as well. And also, you could also use that tip with the snooze shade. Some really kick off putting the snooze shade on, but again, I found if I did it bit by bit, so I would recline it a little bit, put the snooze shade on, leave it for a little bit, get them used to it, recline them a little bit more, put the snooze shade down, and as they got drowsier, there was definitely less resistance from them, so that can help as well. So let's do a little sleep summary in the show notes too. Sleep suggestion number 2, use why do I want to keep saying why, but I'm going to start again. So to do a sleep summary of these suggestions, do you know what, I'm going to start completely again. So I'm going to do number 1 sleep suggestion, use the super snooze shade. Sleep suggestion number 2, use mobile white noise. Sleep suggestion number 3, switch off the stimulation, take them somewhere calm and quiet to fall asleep if when possible. Sleep suggestion number 4, switch to a sling if you can, if that's a possibility. And last one, sleep suggestion number 5, recline to rest. So slowly start to recline the buggy or car seat if you can.